Hey, what's up guys, it's Jace, and welcome to another exciting episode of the ELAV8 podcast. Today, Sam and I sit down and we cover a myriad of topics. Are we in an AI arms race? What is the concept of parallel universes in today's world? As well as, what is happening with critical thinking today?
Parallel universes, the concept of parallel universes, is that we actually, every day, walk around in parallel universes, but we actively disengage from them. And I'll give you an example. If you walk by someone that's homeless on the street, they live and occupy this same geographical area as you, but they have a completely different lived experience. 100%. You can walk right by them, you can see them, but you will actively disengage. Hey, what's up guys? It's Jace and Sam, and we're back for another exciting episode of the ELAV8 podcast. Sam, how you doing?
Doing great, Jace. I'm doing great. I'm all logged on here with my speakers and settings. I have entered the new millennium with the ability to figure out how to get a headset connected to a podcast or Google Meet. Did you know Google Meet these days now hijacks my iPhone on the camera from my desktop?
Dude, it is actually insane. It's not fun. I'm very well aware of that. I hate it.
Why does it do that?
Well, so like in iOS 17, they created this handoff functionality from your camera because, like, once again, we're too close to it, man. Like, I'm sure you have a nice camera, right, or something, right? A lot of people don't have web cameras, and so like the iPhone is now supposed to double as like your better web camera because it has a better resolution, like I think the FaceTime camera.
Well, that's fine, but that shouldn't be the default.
I know, it's weird. It's weird. But I wouldn't know anymore because I updated to iOS 18 beta because I'm weird and I want to hate myself.
Well, that's going to cause unforeseen problems.
Oh, it's already happening. It's already happening. I can't send text messages half the time. It's like text message undelivered. And then like they'll respond, like people will respond to the undelivered text message. But I don't know if things are going through anymore. I have no idea.
I feel like everything's a little bit perpetually broken on the tech side. I don't know why. Apparently Mercury is in retrograde, so if you believe in that, that's a thing. But also, my wife literally told me that a whole bunch of websites were randomly down today that she was going to.
Yes. Yeah, Reddit was down. Everything was down. It was crazy today.
So
it was like a sad, lonely place. But
the question is simply like, is that an accident when that happens, or
do we know anymore? Like, do we know anymore? Like,
I don't know anything
that's been happening. So let's go through like a series of things that have happened this year real quick. And this is a great subject matter to talk about, right? It ranges everything from the Boston Bridge incident, right? Where, I think 6 people died, which was like the extreme of things happening. Yeah. That's kind of crazy with technology. All the way to CrowdStrike, which was a couple, I think it was like a month ago now.
Wait, the Boston Bridge, the Maryland Bridge, right? The Baltimore?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Baltimore.
Sorry.
Okay.
Baltimore. Yeah, I knew it was
what happened
B.
in Boston? I was like, Boston? What the hell happened there? Okay.
Yeah.
Baltimore.
Yeah,
okay.
Baltimore. Baltimore Bridge. So we have Baltimore Bridge. We have CrowdStrike, which took out like half the planet and their Microsoft systems. All right, which was absolutely crazy. And now we have things like this happening. So I don't know, man. Is this the AI versus AI warfare that we talked about? Is it happening? I don't know.
Well, look, there's a lot of interesting things going on. So there's this whole, because the question is, how do you know what's true versus what's being spun to tell you everything's fine? So like, here's a good one, right? I was reading, look at this amazing Ukrainian offensive into Russia, right? So that was, they're now taking parts of Russia. Then I go read an article and they're like, well, the only reason they're moving into Russia is because it's a completely boneheaded move, and they've taken all of their good troops away from the front where they're losing and redirected them towards Russia, and no one can understand why they're doing this, and we're playing right into the Russians' hands. And I read both articles, and I'm like, I have no idea which one's accurate.
But, I mean, and you won't ever know. Like, we're now in the age of, like, you'll never know. Like, I saw some crazy things happening with AI and how, we talked about deepfakes a couple months ago, but deepfakes are now at the level where most normal people will not be able to discern what's real and what's not. So you have the articles, which is crazy, but now we're going into this new world where video is going to like what's real.
Well, and that's going to play out I mean, look, you're already. I have a feeling. All right, here's a hypothesis that just entered my brain. I have not sanity checked this, but is there a reason that news media, and they'll just be competing news medias around the world with editors and AI inventing their own news and just telling a narrative to their people that has no basis in reality. That's just completely fictional.
I mean, that's definitely a reality. And if you want to go a step further, right? Like, and I promise you this is related to it. Did you see that the CEO of Telegram was just like arrested within France?
Yes.
Okay.
I read 2 conflicting articles on that too. And my dad told me about one where, this guy was brought down for good reasons, right? And this was a sting, and they got him, and that's the one lens he's looking through. And then the other one is like, oh, this is the end of free speech.
Yeah, I mean, so it is crazy, right? So I think I know you know this. It's like I'm actually a pretty like pro-regulation like person for certain things. Free speech obviously is not one of them, but one of the things that he was doing with the Ton blockchain, because I mean I don't know if you're aware of this, he actually has like a blockchain which facilitates financial transactions. There is an argument to be made that he has not really appeased some FinCEN regulations to prevent money laundering. Like he doesn't have AML practices employed on the Ton blockchain. I can actually be like, all right, that makes sense, but that's a finable thing. That's not like we're going to imprison you for years upon years upon years, right? But if you look at the charges, and I don't know what your dad and you talked about, but like the charges weren't about that, right? They were about like you're enabling people to communicate on your platform to essentially organize and propel terrorism forward. That's like essentially what was being brought against him.
So if they're saying because you created a platform for human beings to communicate in a secure way, is that what I'm hearing? That you are now aiding and abetting terrorists?
Yeah, so the specific charge that they're really keying on is that the encryption method, right? He didn't register his encryption, which is
if you register your encryption, then it's not encrypted.
Exactly, meaning that if you register it, the government can peek in. They can just like, oh, just a little look in, right? And that's what they wanted. And he's like, no, you can't have that, right? So there are some valid concerns, right? Which I named is like the anti-money laundering stuff. Like, hey, man, I get it. Come after him for that and give him time, which, by the way, every single bank on the planet's been dinged for AML infractions. And you know what happened in those instances? They got fined and they got time to fix it, right? That is universal. So, hey, you get pinged on that? All right, I get it. But the charges that are listed in the indictment are all relevant to essentially like free speech issues. And that's crazy.
So this is where, I mean, remember like 10 or 12 years ago, Apple got into a big thing with the government over, holding
text message.
Yeah. So
I remember that.
Where do we think that landed?
So apparently an Israeli tech firm cracked it, right? And they got in. And since then, also supposedly it's been patched, right? I genuinely believe, especially with supercomputers and AI, that all encryption doesn't matter anymore. That's a personal, I don't have any factual evidence to back that up. But I genuinely believe that if any, government wants to get into a phone, they can. I just believe that's true now.
Yeah, I mean, why would you believe that anything is not, why would you have any remote belief that anything you are saying is not easily accessible or listened to if it's connected to an electronic device?
You want to take this down like an even scary rabbit hole right now, because like a lot of people think about Big Brother in the terms of governments, right? But they don't think about necessarily. Well, they probably do, but they don't really think about like brands like Call of Duty, right? Like Activision Call of Duty. And I want to give you a really specific example, and I want to pick your brain on it. Is that in Call of Duty multiplayer, they have AI listening to conversations now to essentially aid with bans, right? So if I come on and I start saying like ethnic slurs or, just really messed up bad things, I can be banned, right? And the way they're doing it is they have LLMs on top of a language processor to give you a rating and say, oh, you're a good person that's allowed to play our game, or you're a toxic player that can't play our game. So in the realm of like Black Mirror, right, we are now starting allowing these things. Yeah,
this is coming. I mean, like you remember that John Hamm episode where basically at a certain point everyone just turned him off and he just couldn't access anybody at the end.
Yeah. But dude, that's where we're there. We're there.
There were a couple episodes. I mean, the social credit score, all of those things, and so now it may not be legislated directly through the federal government, but it'll be built in by Silicon Valley companies looking to police their users in the metaverse, basically.
Yeah, and to take it a step further, like let's say these brands do it, right? Well, it's not if they're doing it. Do you think for a second, if they want to facilitate, being a capitalist-driven business, that they won't allow government into their systems? They're going to do it.
So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure to do this. And do you know what fascism is, Jason?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so what's funny enough is like I reread the definition of fascism like 2 days ago.
I'll leave it to you.
Well, I mean, so it's like a singular entity controlling everything. That's essentially what it means, right?
The merging of the public and the private sector.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a singular thing.
It's basically governments and corporation merging is basically what fascism is.
So what's crazy about the reason why I reread it, right? Just like trying to wrap my mind is that word is thrown around so flippantly now. Like it's thrown around just so flippantly. Like what actually is a fascist? And you're right. Like that's what we're cruising towards. And by the way, I'm going to say something controversial. I don't think it's our fault. I think that our reliance and need for technology has just driven us to this point where it's almost like a foregone conclusion unless we separate from technology that's where we're going. It's almost impossible that we don't go towards some form of fascism because of how we're going to be so technology dependent and how AI is essentially going to become our government.
Hard to argue with. This is why I highly recommend people start to develop skills in the real world again.
Yeah. Hey, be a farmer. Just be a farmer. Yeah. And even that's in trouble. That's crazy.
Well, it's probably not better to have a farm, but if you figured out how to do aquaponics in your house or various things and you have a backyard and things like that. Look, in the end, I think it's just a new age. In every age, has there ever been an age where people weren't afraid of some form of totalitarianism?
I mean, that's from the beginning of time.
So now we're just worried about the technological version of it. I guess my question is, do we need to be more afraid than we've ever been?
Oh, 100%. And I'll use Europe as an example, right? What's happening in Europe, and we've talked about the last 2 episodes, and once again, so behind on posting episodes. The episode that you guys probably haven't listened to yet as this time recording, when you listen to it, it's awesome. It's about Europe in some instances. Dude, but what's happening right there has greatly escalated from 2 episodes ago, and it's like, this might happen, to where it's like really happening and people are being arrested en masse. It's insane.
Well, so let's talk about that too, because if you go through your Apple News feed, you won't see anything talking about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're in an election cycle right now, right? And what's going to sell ratings, right? We all know about Nielsen ratings. What are advertisers going to make money on it?
But
they're going to make money on Trump and Kamala Harris.
But here's the thing, and that's all that's talking about. It's that and celebrities, But my question to you is, like, for the average human, where would they even get? Because Apple News is theoretically an aggregation of all the popular news feeds, right? So it's supposed to be news. The cool thing about it is it's supposed to like bring all the things going on right to one centralized feed. Awesome. So I almost look at it to see what it's not reporting, and like I'm
focus on that.
I'm fascinated on what it's not reporting. And what I'm finding is it reports on very little. And yet there's all these articles.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm sure you heard about Boeing and the astronauts being stuck in space. That was probably all over your news feed, right? Like you heard all about that. If it bleeds, it leads, man. If it bleeds, it leads. And it's not.
My question is, where does the average, or what % do you think the average human has any idea around what's going on?
Absolutely, like zero, near zero. It's like near zero, man. It's bad. And what's it? I don't judge people. Like I know you don't either. We're like the least judgmental people ever. This is just like you and I sharing a laugh because it's so insane at the moment. But like it's impossible. It's impossible.
Have you hung out in a mall lately?
Yeah, dude, I love going to the mall. I actually like to work at the mall. So if my work friends are watching, if my friends are watching this and they know it's true, they'll see like because I do a lot of meetings, just like I'm talking to you right now. So I'll have my like work laptop and like, Jace, are you in a coffee shop? I was like, not only am I at a coffee shop, I'm at a coffee shop at a mall. It's fantastic. It is great. I highly recommend it. Could not recommend it enough.
Dude, the people watching. I just sat for like my wife was in like just shopping for some soap, and I was like, I can't help you here. So I went outside and I just like sat and I just watched people walk by for 10 minutes. It was like the most fascinating thing.
And you had a great time, didn't you? That 10 minutes went by so fast because you were like, what's your world like? What is your world like?
It was fascinating. It was really, really interesting. And you know, the reality is you just get a sense, honestly, that like people are living in completely different realities.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite things that anyone's ever told me, and I really wish I know who told me, it's not my idea, is that parallel universes, the concept of parallel universes, is that we actually every day walk around in parallel universes, but we actively disengage from them. And I'll give you an example. If you walk by someone that's homeless on the street, they live and occupy this same geographical area as you, but they have a completely different lived experience. 100%. You can walk right by them, you can see them, but you will actively disengage. The same thing happens with people that are above us inside like the wealth system, right? Like billionaires. We walk next to billionaires all the time. They don't look at us. They don't care.
So a couple spiritual things around that. Depending on what spiritual teaching you look at, right? There's a concept that if you were the other person in that situation, you would do the exact same thing they did, based on all of the data that you had as that person, right? So and then you get into the whole idea of how do you change, and we could talk about that. But the reason I bring it up is for exactly what you talked about, which is every action that somebody makes sense from their perspective. Now, and that to that parallel universe thing you're talking about, yeah. I mean, when you think about it from that perspective, the universe everyone is in is completely different. And then we all look at it and we look at what someone else does. And we're like, how could they do that? And the reason that is because they live in a parallel universe from the one you live in. But it made total sense to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Sam, we're about to go down some more rabbit holes, aren't we? I feel it.
That's what this is. We might as well just change do we change the name of this to rabbit hole or elevating rabbit holes? I don't know. Like what's the, I don't know.
Hold. That could wind up in a bad situation. But yeah, man, dude, like the news this week was just really, I mean, I say this every time to you. It's just so insane to me. And like the Boeing thing just keeps getting weirder and weirder. And I know I shouldn't be focusing on it, but I can't help it. That's like my new, oceanic submarine, I guess. It just, you saw what happened in Atlanta. You live in Atlanta.
Wait, which thing? No, what happened there?
Oh, Sam. Okay, a tire exploded. Okay, and in Atlanta. Yeah, I hear my Texas came out right there. No, an Atlanta. I can't say it. Please say Atlanta for me.
Is it Atlantan?
Atlantan. Yeah. And I can't say it. An Atlantan hangar. Okay, a tire exploded right in the Delta hangar, and 2 people died.
Oh.
So, and not only that, as of today, a Boeing plane had a gas leak on the runway, and fuel was just spilling out of the wing. It so much stuff is happening with this company. It's like, why now? Why is this all happening?
I think we know why. Well, actually, we would know why. Oh, but wait, the 2 whistleblowers have just recently been murdered. Or wait, they weren't murdered. Sorry. No, not murdered. Never mind. Incorrect. Okay. What was the official story? The official story was
they just passed away. They committed suicide. They unalived
on the verge of testimony. Weird.
It's weird. Unalived themselves. That's the word we have to use on this platform. They unalived themselves. Yeah, which is crazy too. Which is crazy. Like, so I got into this new habit, right? Going into our transcripts of every Elevate podcast, right? Throwing that into ChatGPT and creating chapter markers. And that got me to think, right? Because it's actually crazy how well YouTube does automatic captions, right? And Apple Podcast does automatic captions, Spotify doing automatic captions. And when you think about the power of AI and how it does its LLMs, and how we just talked about how Activision is actively banning players for being terrible, right? It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And so that's why we have to use the words unalive themselves, because if we use any other word, it's like, maybe we just demonetize and nuke that content downwards, which isn't good.
You know, that's the interesting thing, right? So let's think about the residue of that. There's a couple ways to look at it, right? Which is, on the one hand, I can absolutely understand the need to want to regulate people's behavior online, because, you know, I mean, look, if you look at like any attractive woman's YouTube channel comments, you shouldn't.
Yeah. It's actually horrible. I mean, you know my friends, and
Yep.
I read some of their comments sometimes. It's just horrible. It's just horrible.
So
and they're mean.
Yeah.
They're mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I got my first mean comment on one of my YouTube videos.
Oh,
It was
congratulations.
fantastic.
What'd they say?
Oh, they made fun of me for buying a Cybertruck. They're like, "How sad are you in life for buying the Cybertruck?" I was like, "This is a great opportunity to lean into it, right?" Yeah, I was like, "You're absolutely right. I feel so empty inside that this is my only coping mechanism to face the world. You know, to have that shot of dopamine and lift up my serotonin enough to where I feel like I matter." And they're like, "Jesus Christ, dude, are you okay?"
Well, they're not ready for that.
They're not ready. It was too heavy. It's too heavy. I should have came in a little bit more subtle, you know?
You should have been like, what? You should have responded to their response with like, are you okay, Snowflake? You know?
See, look, I'm at this point, and by the way, you taught me this.
Oh, no. What'd I do?
No, it was good. It was good. So, you know, I was having problems with my family a couple years ago, and I reached out to you. I was like, "Hey, man, like, you know, like, how do I like, you know, get closer to like my mom and dad," right? And I feel like every son and daughter goes through this, right? It's like the growing pains of becoming an adult and realizing like there's no point in arguing with your parents. You love your parents, right? I should be thankful. And you were telling me like, "Man, Jace, like you were Sage Sam. You were Sage Sam in this moment." You're like, "Man, you just gotta realize that's your mom and dad, and they're just like you, and that at some point in time they fought with their mom and dad. And when you realize that, doesn't matter anymore. They're just your friends. And you know what? Just let it roll off your back. It doesn't matter." And when you start doing that, you're going to have a better time. Like, dude, Sage Sam delivered. And so I execute that in my everyday life now. When people give me like stuff that's like mean, quote unquote, I just roll into it. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's a better way to go through life. You know, the reality is, the second you realize that actually not only do words shouldn't hurt you, because, I mean, whatever I was to say to you, would you be physically hurt?
I don't know, Sam. You could cut me deep. You could cut me deep, Sam.
But it shouldn't. You know,
I know.
When you really think about it, like, why would it cut you deep? It would cut you deep because it's true? Because if it's true, then it shouldn't cut you deep. Then you should thank that person. And if it's not true, then you'll be like, well, whatever. Why am I talking to you?
See, I blame the 80s and 90s, right? Where like the presentation of ego was so important, and we're still in learning those behaviors. We've been programmed to all like have the, you know, lifestyles of the rich and the famous. And when that's compromised, we all have a little icky inside.
Let me present you with two realities, though. You tell me which one you prefer. Do you prefer the reality where you go around with this idea that you are like, man, I'm so famous, and like every girl wants me, and like everywhere I go, they just like look at me and they're like, wow, that guy. Oh, I can't wait to like go out with him. Like, and it's like, do you prefer that reality where you're going around thinking that, and everyone else in your world is like, I can't stand that dude. Like, like I loathe this dude. Like every time he walks in the room, I want to leave. You know, like because of how egotistical He is, and I just like I can't deal with this. And also, every woman is like every woman who's worth anything is like, oh no, no way, been there, done that, not doing that. And so you can have that reality, right, where just no one tells you, and if they did, you wouldn't listen. Or you can have the reality where like you got a couple buddies who are like, yo, you might want to watch that behavior right there because that's not working.
I'd rather have the friends. I'd rather have the actual friends that say that to me. Dude, because let's be honest, like, how great is it being ripped on by your friends? Like, I honestly love that more than anything. When I do something dumb and somebody goes, you're an idiot, I love them so much. And I'm like, I needed that. Thank you. I needed that gut check. Let's go.
It's self-policing, you know, and I think unfortunately somewhere along the line, maybe that all of that behavior is bullying now, you know, or whatever it is, or people are fragile. Like, you know, it's like there's the lines have totally blurred between objective criticism and fragile egos versus like legitimate bullying and brutality.
Yeah. So obviously, I know we're on the same page of this. I don't believe bullying the weak, right? Like people that can't defend themselves. I think we're both on the same page on that. And honestly, it leads to bad behavior. But you 100% should bully your friends. Bring bullying back for your friends. Like, it needs to happen. This coddling that we have within America specifically is just not great. It's not great. And the reason why I'm being so, like, brutal right now, and I admit that I'm being brutal, and I would tone it down if you were my friend and you're going through a tough time. I'd be like, it's just that I know we're in an extreme pendulum shift, right? I think we talked about this multiple times. It's like society does this. It just swings this way and then swings this way. It swings that way, whatever. And it's going to continue to do that. And I'm not trying to combat that. But right now, we're so far over here where like constructive criticism isn't allowed. It's just like greatly hurting society. We just need to watch Remember the Titans. Denzel's speech, you know, if you allow that boy to play, you're gonna hurt him for life. You know what I mean? Like, where'd that go?
This is look, I mean, well, and actually, I was talking to my wife about this. It's an interesting topic, right? So let's touch the third rail here, which is body shaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere along the line, you know, and I think and she actually raised a really interesting point, which was where we are now, which is like, oh, yeah. Like heavyset women, you know, basically on Sports Illustrated covers and things like that. You know, like unhealthy is suddenly we have to pretend that it's healthy, right? Like,
yes,
I've been fat in my life. I was fat. Like,
yeah.
It's not about fat shaming or any of this stuff. It's like you're overweight, dude. Like, this is
I
a
understand
thing.
what you're saying.
And if
yeah,
you look,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, right? So, like, Sports Illustrated, let's look at the niche of what that is, right? Yeah. There's, like, an expectation of the swimsuit edition. I feel like that's kind of what you're saying. Now, do I believe the person on the cover that you're referring to? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. Is she beautiful? I believe she's beautiful. Now, the celebration of lifestyle choices, that's where I agree with you the most. Well,
here's my question. Because who is that for, right? If you think you're Sports Illustrated, right, and you're putting out the swimsuit issue, let's start with what is the fundamental purpose of the swimsuit issue?
Well, let's be honest. It's to sell more magazines. It's a profit-generated capitalism.
Why?
Because let's be just brutally honest. Sex sells, right? They're trying to increase profit.
Right? Yeah. So somewhere along the line, someone convinced them that, hey, our swimsuit edition is the most popular thing we have. We like to plaster it with beautiful women.
Well, I mean, this is such a bigger discussion, right? Because it's actually bigger than Sports Illustrated. Like, if you want to use another, you could go with Bud Light and what happened with Dylan Mulvaney, right? You could go with
it's marketing. They screwed up their marketing, right? So they got pressured to pretend their user base was one way when it's not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to get at. It's targeted marketing, right? Who is your target market, right? And what happened, right? I don't know if you ever watched the interview with Bud Light, or it's Anheuser-Busch's. She was the CMO, right? And she was trying to change the market, right? And she didn't do it subtly. Like the market was frat boys, college boys, and there's a podcast where she comes, I'm trying to burn that down. I want us to be the accessible brand, and that's why they went after Dylan Mulvaney. And I guess the problem was that is the brand you mentioned, Sports Illustrated, but like they're trying to do these seismic market shifts in like nanoseconds, and you can't do that. Like that's the actual core issues. You can't just say we're now this, right?
Or you can, but no one's gonna like it.
Yeah, the brand loyalty thing, which you know a lot about brand loyalty. Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like you can't just like nuke brand loyalty overnight.
Well, you can, and people do. Like, look at Disney, right? You know, everyone hates Disney now, right? And so the reality, and so you have to ask why that is. And
yeah,
and the reason is, like, Disney decided to bring politics into a brand that was about family.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they should or whether they shouldn't, they pretended their audience was one way when they were another. And their audience responded accordingly. And so what's not happening is an honest conversation at any of these levels around what is the expectation here.
Okay, so let's drill into more of this, right? The more like because I'm actually getting to the core of what you're saying now. Are you frustrated with the brands and their expectation of these seismic shifts?
I think it's so clear their brands don't understand their audiences, right? And they just listen to somebody who's coming in and being like, oh yeah, this is what everyone's doing now. This is the trend, right? But they don't understand why they're making the product they were making. Because if they really understood why they were making the product they were making, they would know what an indefensible marketing idea many of their marketing ideas are.
Where does society land on this right now, right? Because this is actually a good question I have for you, or in my opinion, it's a good question. It could be a terrible question. Is like right now we're in this major like I keep on calling them seculums, right? But we are in the seculum. We're at the end of the fourth tanning. I keep on bringing it back. It's like society is having like this major pushback moment, right? And that's what we're circling around right now. We're circling around Disney. We're circling around Bud Light. We're circling around Sports Illustrated. We can name so many different brands that are struggling with this. Like, where does it end, right? Because at
so everyone already hates being marketed to in the first place.
Yeah,
would be my point. So like we all are like, it's such a transparent thing, right? But like to just see these like corporations flailing, and it's like you already knew they were full of shit to begin with, but now they have such a transparent agenda where they're trying to propagandize you, and you're just like, why? Like, what gives you the right?
I got it. Okay. So I actually now fully get what you're trying to say. It took me forever to get there, and I'm glad we had this conversation. You're telling me right now is the propaganda is so apparent, it's so out there, it's so in your face that they're removing the joy from what you used to have with the brand itself.
The lies used to be pleasant. Now they're just like, it's like they're not even trying because they're so confused about what they're trying to do. The marketing is just unwatchable.
The marketing is unwatchable. That's a good phrase. The marketing is unwatchable. I like that. The marketing is unwatchable. All right, so I'm going to go back to something, right? Do you remember Christmas morning? I promise I'm going to bring it full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you were a kid, or were you Jewish Hanukkah? I can't remember. We haven't talked about your childhood. What did you celebrate?
So actually, well, it's interesting. So like my mom was raised Christian. So like, but grew up Jewish. And now I have a wife who's Christian, so I celebrate. And the truth is, I think it's all the same religion. That's actually the secret to all this. We can get into that at some point. So, like, the idea that Christianity and Judaism are fundamentally different is confusing to me.
Well, the reason I'm asking, did you celebrate Christmas morning? Did you, like, have that where you came down and had presents?
No, we had Hanukkah for the most part. So that was where you got one every day for 8 days.
Oh, that sounds cool. All right, I like that. That's great.
Christmas is better. Christmas wins. It's not even close. Not even pretending. Yeah, no, that Christmas wins.
All right, so I'm gonna give you like a story. I'm gonna paint a picture for you as a storyteller. I'm gonna do my best. All right, when I believed in Santa Claus, because I did, man, I believed in Santa Claus. It was a miracle, man. You come down, all right, and there would be like all these presents there, like out of nowhere, right? It was a miracle. And it was a beautiful thing. I had this childlike innocence where I believed in magic. And that's what I believed in when I watched Disney films, right? Like I could one day be Prince Charming and sweep a princess off her feet, all right, and have this beautiful love story. And my expectations of love were built on the lies of Disney, right? I literally have this picture in my head of what love should have been. And then, you know, I realized too, for every woman I've dated, you know, since that time, they had an expectation of what love should be, right? And how they should be treated. And not necessarily a bad thing. I felt like the values that Disney instilled in those women are great things, that chivalry was a good thing. I should open the door for them, etc. if they wanted that to happen, because some women don't want
you're
that, by the way.
qualifying it, like, you know, and that's the thing. This is where it's like, no, there's no consistency anymore.
Yeah, so getting back to your example of Disney, right? I had this whole nostalgia, this whole identity built upon this thing that was like literally programmed. I was programmed to believe. And now I'm having conflicts in my programming. And I feel like people today are having exactly that. They're having conflicts in their programming, and they don't know how to emotionally deal with it.
There are massive conflicts in everyone's programming. But here's a question I've got for you.
Yeah.
So, everyone likes to knock the patriarchal 50s, right? The patriarchy and all of this stuff. However, if
this is gonna be good.
If you watch the content there, watch Leave It to Beaver, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's put Leave It to Beaver up against like a death metal video.
Okay.
How do we determine which era's worse?
I mean, we can look at statistical facts, right? I love stats. I love statistics. And I mean, what it boils down to, murder rates are up, right? Like crime is up.
And so to follow it up, it's a simple question, right? So like every era has its problems, right? But we like to go dismiss the past as if like, oh, those people who lived back then, they were so stupid and idiotic. And how could we ever do anything like that? And fortunately, we've gotten rid of racism in our modern age. And we are now nice and perfect. And all of these things are great. Mm-hmm. Do you honestly think, Jace, 40 years from now, people are going to look back at this time as the golden age?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But, I mean, I'm going to be a broken record. We're in the end of the fourth turning, right? Like, the times are not good.
But the amount of crap everybody gives the earlier eras because they were flawed. And, of course, they were flawed. But it's not acknowledging that this era is so horrifically flawed that how can we judge the previous eras?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm processing it. I'm processing it. Yeah. I mean, because the previous eras had their problems. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Our era has its problems now. I think it's just
if you're a black person or a Native American person, it's very hard to justify how you could comfortably live in this country based on the past.
Yeah. Man, dude, I feel so bad about like my myopic view of the education system, right? And look, I love my education. I'm very thankful for what I learned. But like, dude, I didn't know about Black Wall Street till like 5 years ago. You know, like, and how the United States burned it to the ground.
Or if you
like,
look at
crazy.
The fascinating map of Indian tribes prior to the U.S., you know, it's like...
yeah.
So like...
We had one what was it, one like section about the Trail of Tears, and we moved on. Like, I'm like, oh, that was terrible. Oh, by the way, we need to learn more about George Washington.
And I'm not saying we should know about George Washington. I'm not saying we should know about America. But it's interesting what our history books chose to deliver to us as the knowledge they wanted to implant in our brains. But the question we have to ask ourselves is the knowledge that's being implanted in people's brains today any better? I don't think it is.
So, man, you really brought it full circle. I want you to just acknowledge that, because what we're talking about, right, is we started this conversation today about like how do you discern what is real, right? Like what is fake news, what is not fake news, and whose perspective is the best perspective, right? Russia versus Ukraine. They're giving different articles around the same event. Fox News versus CNN. And then what we shifted into is this, how do you get your news, right? So coming back to what you're talking about right now is we are just so overwhelmed with information, where information was controlled. It was controlled by the textbooks that you got from school. You couldn't take them home. They were just in the classroom. So now you have a device in your pocket to where you just can overwhelmed, bombarded. And so our perception of what should be has greatly expanded. And we latch on to people, right? Like news anchors or celebrities or influencers or artists in general, and we buy into these ideologies that are hitting us at all angles, right? And so basically what I'm trying to say is there's not a unified ideology anymore. There isn't the ability to have a Leave It to Beaver, because that was just controlled. There was only 6 channels on television back then, right? Now you have an unlimited supply of information to where you can't conform. There is no conformity. There's just conflict.
Yeah. Well, and there's an internal conflict, I think, as well, because now that you're being presented with all of the information, and much of that information is conflicting, and when you also have to be very aware that history is written by the winners, and also that, well, then you find what the other side wrote, and that gets some publicity, and that those people get a broadcasting channel too now. So now it's just like every voice is being heard, and it becomes impossible to fact check.
Yeah. Oh my God. I want you to know, like, I'm going to stay up tonight. Like, you just unlocked a piece of my brain that needed unlocked. So I'm very thankful. I have something interesting for you to think about. And I can't remember who it was. It might've been Jenna. I was like helping her shoot a video last week. So I was spending time with her. What she was saying, I believe it was her. It could have been you, actually. I don't know, but I'm just going to tell you, is that every single person that's not you has a different version of you in their mind. So you think of yourself as a certain way. I'm this, right? I'm good at karate, right? I know. What do? You do judo?
Hwarangdo.
Kwando?
Hwarangdo. HWARANGDO.
Hwarangdo.
Close enough.
Dang it. I'm going to look at it. You're going to text it to me after we get off, and I'm going to learn it. All right. Well, anyway. Okay. You have this version of yourself inside of your mind. This is crazy when you actually think about it.
Yeah.
Every single person, your mom, your dad, your siblings, your wife, your colleagues, every single one of them have a different version of you within their mind. That totally. Is not the version that's in your mind. And that's crazy.
We're giving Jenna credit for that one. That one's not me. So she's totally right. I mean, I think it's an interesting thing to think about, right? And now, and actually, that's maybe the difference. So back in the day, you had 3 channels, right? ABC, CBS, NBC. And you had a small group of people who had a platform. Everyone has a platform now.
Everyone.
And so everyone's perspective of everything else is now being just unleashed. And so now the world goes from this like, la-di-da, okay, I know probably I can't believe all of this, but like, everyone else believes it, so maybe it's true, to like, there's just, you'll never run out of rabbit holes.
Man, you know that song on the Disney ride, Small World? It's a small world after all. I think we finally reached a level to where it's no longer a small world. It's so big. It's so big. And now people are just like coming to terms with it. Like, how do you stand out in that small, now big world?
I guess the question is, why do you feel like you have to stand out?
Sam, this comes back to you versus me, and you always being the sage one and me always having anxiety. All right? Like, you're right.
Go ahead. Because I'm going to tell you, I actually heard a spiritual thing today that like connected to me. It was like, do you know, and tell me if you think this is inaccurate, because I want to sanity disprove this. All anxiety comes from either being afraid you're going to lose something or being afraid you're not going to get something.
Okay, that's beautiful. I mean, I can't disprove that. That's true. It's right. It's a yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that's it.
And this was related to linking to why rich people are so unhappy, because they're constantly worrying about what they can lose and how it's going to affect them and their status and all of the things that they've worked to get and what would happen if that went away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you talk to a person with nothing to lose, they're just like, well, I'm here.
I'm here.
Do you think they're anxious?
Nah, man, they're just living, dude. LIVEN. I don't know. Sorry, that was terrible Matthew McConaughey impression. This is awful.
But I mean, it's an interesting. That happened today, and I thought it was really interesting. So I was like, I had to sit down.
Yeah. Oh, man, I miss talking to you. By the way, like, can I tell you something? I noticed in my week, like literally, I had a visceral like, I didn't talk to Sam this week because like I accumulate so much stuff right throughout the week that I'm just like, man, I want to talk to you about it. I like I don't really talk about like this stuff with people, even the closest friends I have, who I deeply value. I'm not saying I don't value them, but like I can't talk to them about AI. Can't do it. They don't care. They don't care.
No, that's the thing. Look, that's why I do this too. I'm not like, I don't have a sounding board necessarily for this. There's not like a forum where it's like, come in and just riff, So this is, I agree, man. I look forward to these. I enjoy them. Like for me, it also helps to like, you have stuff that's stuck in your brain that like, you need to sanity check with the world, So this is that for me, where I'm like, oh, I don't know. Does this make sense? I don't care. Like, what do we think?
Yeah, I text, I'm sure you do the same thing because we're very lucky, man. Like we have come in contact with some of the smartest people on the planet. Like I'm certain of that, just through our proximity. Believe it or not, through like doing editing stuff, it just kind of happened that way. Isn't that weird? Like you have met some like absolute rock stars in terms of like engineering, brilliant minds through editing. I feel like we forget
100%.
We take that for granted.
We
both do.
Dude, I met you, man. You're one of the smartest people in the game, and like, look, it's why I want to do the podcast with you. But like, the reality is, for as much like shit as we want to give the internet, right? What it has done is so as much as it has allowed you to create an echo chamber, it has also enabled you to meet people you never would have come across who will change your life in ways that never would have been possible had you just been stuck in the pool that was, built around you without connectivity.
Yeah, but I still wish we still had a lazy river that we could just float in circles all day. You mentioned a pool, and that would be so good. I wish you and I both could turn it off for 48 to 72 hours. We turn it off. There's no Jason Sam inner workings happening. We just like go like this, and we drink beer and make steak. Like that would be great.
I actually think it would happen if people just got together and drank beer and made steak, and like actually you could just hang out. But that's the thing is when you're in your little like cocoon, all of this stuff. It's why I think family, community, all of that stuff is important because people got to get in the world. Otherwise, they're just left with their crazy.
You mentioned this a lot, all right? And I'm going to bring it up again. It's what we call a theme here on Elevate. is like you and I quite literally are staring at a camera and a piece of glass right now, right? And like there's nothing actually here, no tangible thing. We could be plugged into the matrix. Like you could be AI, I could be AI for you, and we're just talking right into a void. Like there's nobody in this office with me right now. There's nobody most likely next to you. We're just speaking to a machine.
AI.
Yeah, right now.
I mean, at a certain point, that might be a thing that people start doing. Like, what would prevent it from, at a certain point, just hijacking your feed? It knows where you logged in, and you come in, and it just tells you Jace the Oracle is here, and then you're not sanity checking that because you rarely see that person in the room.
Sam, I do it already. I'm gonna tell you something scary.
Yeah.
When I'm driving in the car, I put on ChatGPT voice mode, and I just talk to ChatGPT.
Really?
The whole entire drive. It's awesome. It's awesome. I literally will like some flip it because you know how ADHD I am. So I'll be like, man, I wonder who built the pyramids, and they'll be like, ChatGPT, tell me all about the pyramids. And it'll just go off this rant, and they'll ask little sub-questions. Well, how do I learn how to read?
ChatGPT doesn't know about that one, though, because, like, if you ask it, you're going to get 20 different answers. I read something literally that the Irish built the pyramids the other day. No bullshit.
You did?
I can't verify that.
Hey, do you want to have some fun? Ask ChatGPT. And this is a challenge. This is some homework. Ask it, and I'm going to take a screenshot, right? And I'll do some actual editing on this episode. I'll take your screenshot and I'll put it in this episode. All right. So after we hang up, you're gonna look up, ask ChatGPT how many R's are in strawberry.
Okay.
Ask it. This is so fantastic. It's so fantastic when you do it, because it's all about how it tokenizes information. Are you doing it right now?
I'm doing it right now.
So while you're doing it right now, I'm going to explain something to people. When you feed information into an LLM, you don't just feed it raw text. You tokenize chunks of the data, and then it returns back information to you. And there's a major problem right now with how that data is being tokenized into the system.
Okay. Well, it said there are 3 R's in the word strawberry.
Oh, they fixed it. It was a huge thing on the internet, and like, nobody could get it to admit it. They were saying it was 2.
Really?
Yeah, it was fun. All right. Well,
that's the thing.
I'm gonna.
There's no way to verify what AI is telling you. You just want to feel better about yourself, so you ask, like, but why is it different? Why is it more informed than your friend?
I mean, to be fair, like, unless I'm talking to you, I'm not gonna have these deep conversations.
Well, but I mean it though. Like, I've been asking stuff about used cars. I'm getting ready to get a used car, and I'm like, oh, this was like not better than any friend that I would ask in terms of like stuff. Like,
true. Yeah, you need an expert.
I mean, it's good at providing more straightforward answers than Google does at the moment. But I would not say it's providing high quality information that is definitive.
Sam, we are at an hour. Take us out. All
right. Well, to be honest, this one was a little confusing. I don't really know necessarily where we landed in that. What is real? What is truth? All of these things. I don't have a good answer to it. Right down to every single person is living in a parallel universe where their own truth is actually fundamentally more correct than anyone else would give them.
Well, I can't top that. I can't tell. That was a great summary. The Sam GPT. That basically, you just did a Sam GPT, and it was fantastic. Well, Sam, it's always a pleasure. I can't talk today. I've already fumbled my words 5 times this episode, but it's great to talk to you today. I missed you. I was being needy. Today. I was like, I need some Sam. Sam, let's go.
I had to hit you up, man. I had to text you. So I was like, hey, where's Jace? Because you went off to Napa. You went and did the thing. I was very happy for you. It sounded like it was awesome.
Yeah, dude. Just living, man.
Living.
Yeah.
You take your Cybertruck up there?
Dude, come on, you know me. I live in that thing. I literally, they're like, hey, the bank's knocking on my door, Jace. We're either gonna seize your assets or your Cybertruck. You're gonna live on the street.
I should have asked about Cybertruck and Napa. We should have put that in this episode, and we didn't. I feel bad, but we don't.
Dude, we can talk about it next time. Dude, right. I got my first flip off. I got flipped off. It was fantastic.
In Napa?
Oh, dude, I loved it.
Of all the places to get flipped off, why would it be Napa? You think there'd be a million of them up there?
I might have cut the guy off. It's always a possibility. I'm not saying I did, but I might have done something to him. But dude, that old man drove up so aggressive and gave me just and I was like, I went, ah! I was so excited. I was like, this is great. It happened.
All right. Well, congratulations, Jace. We actually can finish it there. So that's a milestone to be celebrated.
Yeah. Celebrating right now. All right, man. Well, hey, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, we'll catch you here next time on the ELAV8 podcast. Peace.